Om Shri Sai Ram. Sandeha Nivarini, Chapter 13. Swami, last time you spoke of the Mahabharata war. In the same manner, does the Ramayana also happen in everyone's heart? Undoubtedly, it does take place systematically and in the same sequence. Then in what form does Rama come in this? The Atma is Rama. He has come in the character of Jivi, wearing the dress called body. Then being a Sankalpa Siddha, whose will prevails, and being omnipotent, who is all-powerful, why does he suffer so much? It is all play, his leela, sport. What can be joy for him, and what can be suffering for him? He is Ananda Swarupa, who knows neither. By his will, he can produce everything. He has enacted the Ramayana on the stage of the theatre of the world, with himself taking a role and showing each quality or guna as a separate form. Such a Ramayana is taking place in every heart. The Rama in the heart, the Atma Rama, is observing everything as witness. But the inert material Jada, the Jivi, how does it enter into this Ramayana? The Jada accepts the active Chaitanya, that is, the knowledge of Brahman. Chaitanya is born with the name of Sita. The Jada Chaitanya become one. This is referred to as Sita Rama. So long as the Jada and the Chaitanya are one, there is no trouble and no suffering. It is the separation of one of these two that gives rise to all the bother. How is that, Swami? Sita, who is Brahmajnana, goes away from the Atma, which is in the form of the Jiva. Hence, falling into the darkness of the jungle is inevitable. Rama has acted in this way to show us this. If Sita or Brahmajnana is allowed to be lost, one cannot escape wandering about in the jungle of darkness. Is that so? What is the reason, Swami, for this Lakshmana to be always with him? In our life, what does he stand for? One should not be alone in the dark jungle of life. One should have the manas every by one's sides. It is for this that Lakshmana is kept near always. One should have the manas ever by one's side. It is for this that Lakshmana is kept near always. In the Ramayana, Vali and Sugriva are described. Who are they? When wandering in the dark jungle, one gets despair, when one should get discrimination. They have vengeful hatred of each other. Vali, who is despair, has to be destroyed. Then only can success come. Despair is Vali, discrimination is Sugriva. Hanuman, who appears between these two, who is he? He who is of great help in the conquest of despair, that is courage, that is Hanuman. He is courage. Associated with courage, it is possible to cross the ocean of illusion. That is why Rama built the Setu or bridge with the help of Hanuman. After crossing the ocean of illusion, what is to be planned? Don't you know what Rama did after crossing over the bridge? Conquering moha or illusion, he slew Rajoguna and Tamoguna in the form of Ravana and Kumbhakarna. The remaining brother, the last, the Sattva Guna, that is Vibhishana, was crowned king. The three gunas have been illustrated in the characters and careers of the three brothers, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. After this, what has to be achieved? Has to be achieved? Do you say? Next is the attainment of Anubhava Jnana or Sita, the Jnana reached after experience, Jnana realized in actual life. When both Jada and Chaitanya unite again, that is the Pattabhisheka, the coronation. That is to say, Jivan Mukti, salvation for the Jiva. Therefore, the fundamental teaching of the Ramayana is this: the Jiva, Manas, Jnana, despair, discrimination, courage, delusion, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. These demonstrate themselves each in a different form. It is to be learnt how and in what ways each of these can be either acquired or subdued. All this is done by Atma, who has come in the form and with the name of Rama, by his acting, behaving, directing, and gilding. So the Ramayana has not ended long ago. So long as in each one's life there is a struggle for achievement through these paths and persons attain the Anubhav Jnana in the end and Sattva Guna is crowned at last, until then the Ramayana will continue to take place in the heart of man. On one side the Mahabharata war, on the other side the Ramayana, and on another the Bhagavata. Thus is life led perpetually. Thus is life led perpetually. These are the Sukshma forms of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata. Do you understand? That means in the Ramayana of actual life, Atma is Rama, Manas is Lakshman, Brahmajnana is Sita. And when that Sita is lost, Rama falls into the forest of existence. There, in that forest, there are despair and discrimination. If we associate ourselves with Hanuman or courage, we can go across the sea of delusion with an army of zest, strength, and steadfastness represented by Jambavan, Angada, and other Vanaras. As soon as we cross it, we can destroy the Rajasic quality and the Tamasic quality symbolized by Ravana and Kumbhakarna. The Sattvic quality or Vibhishana can then be crowned. Anubhav Jnana or Sita is then attained. This union of Jada and Chaitanya, that is of Sita and Rama, is the Ananda, Jivan Mukti, salvation for the soul. Ah, what a splendid Ramayana! The Ramayana accomplished as the son of Dasharatha is being enacted now as the subtle Ramayana through gunas and indriyas, qualities and senses in each individual, so to say. There is no so to say in this. It is happening as the subtle Ramayana. You said, Swami, that each guna and each indriya adopts in Ramayana a separate form. It causes some surprise to imagine that the senses also put on some form. In these, the gross and the subtle Ramayanas, in what form do the senses appear? Please tell me this. Whatever may be the guna or quality, how can it express itself without the help of the senses? Gunas are bred in the senses. The senses of action are 5. The senses of knowledge are 5. These 10, with the help of the manas, create attachment, isn't it? Otherwise, there can be no merging at all. Born in Maya, bred in Maya, man's mission is to master Maya, it is said. So too, born in the senses, bred in the senses, the Jada Chaitanya has to master the senses. That is their basic duty. Don't you know? Do you know where Rama the Jivi was born? Whose son is he? Dashratha has that name because he symbolizes the Dashendriyas or the 10 senses. Whichever guna or rupa we consider, it cannot be unrelated to the 10 senses. The senses of action and of knowledge, the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas. In the form of Dashratha, we have the 10. 4 sons were born of Dashratha. Of what were they the forms, Swami? From the 10 senses, not only 4, but any number of gunas and rupas can originate. But only the chiefest, the 4, symbolizing the 4 faces of the Lord, originated by His will. They are born as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. They are Sathya, Dharma, Shanti and Prema in the subtle form. These are the 4 faces of the Lord. Who among these, Swami, is Sathya? Who represents Dharma, Shanti and Prema? Can't you discover? Rama is Sathya. The status and the honor should go to him who has the right, not to me, said Bharata when he was offered the crown. And so he is Dharma, placing complete faith on the Atma, that is Rama, believing that there is no Ananda sweeter than its uninterrupted company. Lakshmana followed Rama, and so he is Prema. Having no individual separate ambition of his own, treading the paths followed by these 3, Shatrughna was calm and unperturbed, and so he is Shanti. Is that clear? Yes, Swami, but these 4 were born of 3 mothers. Who are those mothers? As I said just now, born in Maya, bred in Maya, one has to transcend this Maya. So also, one is born from gunas. One is brought up with gunas. Finally, one has to transcend the gunas. The 3 mothers represent 3 gunas. Among them, Kaushalya is Sattva guna, Kaikeyi is Rajoguna, and Sumitra Tamoguna. They play those roles in the epic. Dashratha, in the form of Dashendriyas, is associated with these gunas, and so he is Indriya Guna Swarupa. It is because man cannot easily grasp the truth through the senses and the gunas only that the Lord taught him through the Ramayana, the Lord teaching us even to this day. The Lord performed that day the gross Ramayana, and today he is performing the Sukshma Ramayana on the stage of the heart of man. Swami, the inner meaning of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which you explained, is really very interesting. If only one probes deeply, what else is there in them? What kind of Mahabharata and Ramayana is taking place in every heart through the action and interaction of manas, chittam and buddhi? You said that the Bhagavatam is also occurring in the same manner. If you will kindly explain how that is happening, we can, after knowing its inner meaning also, start following the subtle Ramayana and Mahabharata and Bhagavatam, all 3. So please tell me about the Bhagavatam. Well, the Bhagavatam is not like the other 2. It has no qualities and no form. It deals with the Atma, which is beyond and behind the qualities or gunas, senses or indriyas, the manas and the chittam. It deals with the powers and prowess of the Atma and its apparent activities or leelas. The Bhagavatam contains the stories of the incarnations of that which is the witness of everything. What are the forms which that witness assumed? Why did he assume those forms? Really speaking, he is all forms, Sarva Swarupi. There is no limit to the number or nature of his forms. Still, if something must be said in conformity with what has happened, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Narsimha, Rama and Krishna, these are its incarnations. In order to transact the creation, the preservation and the destruction of the world, and to punish the wicked and protect the good, he assumes himself the form he designs as best at the time and for the purpose he has set before himself. When that purpose is realized, he is as before the witness, the Atma Rupa. Rama and Krishna also punished the wicked and protected the good. Isn't it, Swami? Then how do you say that in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata there is the Guna Swarupa, while in the Bhagavatam there is no Guna Swarupa? You see, Gunas have a beginning and an end. The Atma has neither. Rama and Krishna too have no qualities essentially. They have demonstrated how, being above gunas, it is possible to keep all gunas under control. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata stories have an end, isn't it? In that sense, the Bhagavatam has no end. It speaks of the Lord who has no beginning or end. It tells of the forms which the Lord wore in the context of the age, the time and the object. The other two, on the other hand, teach the correct policies to be followed in this false, evanescent world and urge men to follow Satya, Dharma, Shanti and Prema. Do you understand? Then the Bhagavatam is of no practical use to us, so to say. What? It is the Bhagavatam that is of most use to the sadhakas. It alone explains the real secret of the Lord, his real glory and his real path. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata endeavor to some extent to uplift the common man, the ordinary man, by moral teaching and example. They show how man can deserve the Lord's grace. But those who seek to know the nature of the Atma and of Paramatma should study more than anything else the Bhagavatam. Swami, what is the relation between Bhagavanta, Bhagavata and the Bhakta? The relationship between the Maharaja, the Yuvaraja and the Kumar Raja. Bhagavanta or the Lord is the Maharaja, of course. The Bhagavata is second in rank because it has come from the Lord as a derivative with the status of Yuvaraja. The Kumara Raja is dependent on both these and so is the Bhakta. The status of Kumara Raja is not an ordinary one. He merits the position of the Maharaja. The rest are inferior to these three. Those who do not rise up to the status of Bhakta or Kumara Raja have no access to the court of Maharaja. Then, Swami, the yogis, the jnanis, the ascetics, do these not deserve that position? Whoever he may be, without bhakti and the love of the higher truth, how can anyone become a yogi or a jnani or an ascetic? They too have bhakti in an equal measure. Take laddu, jalebi, Mysore pak and number of other sweets. In each of them, as the common cause of sweetness, there must be the one article sugar, isn't it? How else can they be made? So also, in these three paths, the sweetness of the Lord's name or bhakti is an ingredient. Without it, the very names of these objects become absurd. Another point, Swami, Can one approach the presence of the Lord only if he has faith in the Lord, and only if with that faith he performs japa, dhyana, bhajana and puja? That is to say, is it not possible to attain that position through the path of truth, the path of dharma, the path of prema, the path of service to others? Well, how can the qualities you mention originate without the fear of sin and the fear of God? Are these paths and the qualifications needed for them, ordinary and common? No. They are the doers to the inner apartment of the Lord. Those that follow those paths can easily reach the precincts of the Lord. But yet, there is a difference between relatives and friends. Those who develop only these qualities are friends, but those who practice them along with devotion to the name and form become relatives. That is the difference. The meditation on the name and the rupa helps to strengthen the gunas also. Without that foundation, the gunas cannot be strong and firm and pure. The Lord's name and the Lord's rupa remove the dross from the qualities of man. But the bhakta and the man with good qualities both attain the same place, isn't it, Swami? Certainly, the merely good man becomes a candidate who deserves the place. The good man who has bhakti has a title to the place. He cannot be passed over. Swami, there are many people who are active, doing various things under the slogan, "The service of man is the service of God." Do their deeds entitle them to the place? Why do you ask so? Certainly, for those that do service with that attitude. But it is very hard to get that real feeling. Considering others as men, simply saying that serving them is to serve God is not sincerity. The mind will then run in two channels. Grasp the glory of Madhava fully. Understand that Madhava is in every Manava. Believe that service to Manava or man is the service Madhava only.